There have been dramatic developments this morning at Melbourne Airport, with Border Force officials revoking Novak Djokovic's visa to enter Australia. The men's world number one arrived on a flight from Dubai as planned late last night. But instead of a warm welcome, the unvaccinated Djokovic was quizzed by border officials about the exemption he says he'd received to play in the Australian Open.
After hours in what his father says was a small room being held under armed guard, his visa was revoked. There are reports Djokovic is now pursuing a court challenge, and the incident risks also becoming a diplomatic row with Serbia's president, saying he supports the tennis star. Extraordinary developments in this story. Tom Maddox is at Melbourne Airport for us. Tom, good morning to you. Novak Djokovic's visa has now been cancelled. What do we know?
Yes, it's one of those classic intersections of sport and politics, isn't it? And as you say, there could be some great political implications here. But what we know is that a short time ago, the Federal Minister, Greg Hunt, confirmed that the Australian Border Force has revoked Novak Djokovic's visa. We're not sure of the process now. The ABC has asked Border Force to explain to us what happens now once it's revoked and he, in what way he is removed from the country. But as you say, there are reports Djokovic and his team are challenging this decision by Australian Border Force in the courts. The ABC has been told that the federal court is yet to receive an application from Djokovic or his team.
The advice that I have literally just received before joining you is that the visa for Novak Djokovic has been cancelled. Obviously, that follows a review of the exemption which was provided through the Victorian government process. They were looking at the integrity and the evidence behind it. The advice I have, and if I can just quote it for you, is the ABF can confirm that Mr Djokovic failed to provide appropriate evidence to meet the entry requirements to Australia, and visa has been subsequently cancelled. So it's a matter for him whether he wishes to appeal that.
And Tom, just before we go into more details, the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, has just tweeted and he's just put out this message saying Mr Djokovic's visa has been cancelled. Rules are rules, especially when it comes to our borders. No one is above these rules. Our strong border policies have been critical to Australia having one of the lowest death rates in the world from COVID, and we are continuing to be vigilant. So, Tom, what happens next to Novak Djokovic?
We've put that question to Australian Border Force, Gisk. His visa has obviously been revoked and cancelled, and he'll be removed from the country, denied entry here. So it's a question of whether if his team indeed does submit some sort of application or to challenge this decision via the courts, what happens then? Does that process take place while Novak is in some sort of detention here in Australia, or does he need to fly away from Australia and then go through that legal process? But it's very unclear. We have the Australian Open starting, of course, on the 17th of January. Novak Djokovic is vying for a record 21st Grand Slam singles title. So there is indeed a lot to play for. But I'm sure, as Louise Plemming, the former player and coach, put it to us earlier, I'm sure the team is devastated. Novak's team is devastated. I'm sorry about the noise we had a little bit earlier, Isk. There were a couple of Serbian fans here that were talking to respective media, so they were indeed showing their support for Novak Djokovic.
Well, I just might ask you about that a little bit now. Has he had much support there on the ground at the airport in the morning or overnight?
Well, late last night, when his plane was due to arrive at about 11:30, there was, it seemed, a lone supporter, a Serbian supporter, waving the Serbian flag and showing his support for Djokovic. Unfortunately for that person, he couldn't see Djokovic arrive because he was denied entry and then detained for several hours while Australian Border Force processed his visa issue. Now we have a couple of other supporters of Novak Djokovic who have come to Melbourne Airport, but that seems to be the extent of it at this stage.
Tom Maddox at Melbourne Airport, thank you very much for that update on a very fast developing story.